So, okay, it's reproduction time. We're going to be talking about the reproductive system today. So, I thought a DNA helix would be the best place to start because the name of the reproduction game is to combine a haploid cell from pops, and in his case, it would be sperm, which is the gamete, with a haploid cell from mom. So the egg is mom's gamete to produce a brand new, unique human. So gametes come from gonads. We can just start this whole process by pointing out similarities. Males and females both have gonads, and we both produce gametes. So welcome to today. Here we go. We had a DNA helix on our host jacket this year in the V. Getting a lot of applications rolling in. They're due by Friday. If you're interested in being a HOSA officer for the 2021 school year, those applications are on the homepage VHS under news and events. You'll email that to me by Friday. Okay. All right. So from this slide here, we have the gamete of a male, the sperm, and half of the genetic code for a new human, as well as the gamete of a female in the egg with the other half of the genetic code. The combination of the two, under the right circumstances, will result in a diploid zygote that contains 50% of genetics from mom and 50% from pops. So I want you to think about this. Isn't it weird how you can have two siblings from the same family, same parents, that look so different? Sometimes it's weird then they look a lot the same and they're not twins. The process that makes this possible is meiosis. So I don't know if you guys remember this, or there was a day when I got talking about mitosis a little bit. Mitosis is going to be basically like one set of these phases, and we're going into two phases. So I kind of remember the different phases of mitosis and meiosis using a little, you know how my brain works. I always have weird acronyms and things like that. So PMAT is what I use, PMAT. And so the way to remember that in my brain is, you know how like a lot of times it seems to me like older ladies, and I know you're like, well, she's an older lady. Does she have? I'm maybe old, but I would say like my mom is older. Okay, so, and my mom doesn't have this either, so maybe it's even older than that. But it seemed to me like there used to be a lot of old grandmas that had this little rug around the toilet, and if you have boys in the household, I feel like that could be referred to as the PMAT. So it was kind of shaped like this. It went around the toilet. If you can remember that like rug, then maybe you can remember the phases. It's weird. It works for my brain. Remember, that's the more tricks and tips like you can throw in to just memorize things, it will stick a little better. Meiosis, though, is a process where a single cell divides twice to produce 4 cells. So, ultimate endgame, if we were talking about mitosis, ultimate endgame of mitosis is to replace worn out cells. So, if we have skin cells that are being sloughed off all the time, we have new skin cells developed all the time. And that process is mitosis. If we want to create gametes, which are sex cells, it's a different process. So meiosis makes sperm and egg cells, the gametes. Humans have 46 chromosomes, and that's how many cells in your body have. That every cell, like we took some cells out of your body, they would have 46 chromosomes. Sperm and egg cells have 23. When sperm and egg cells come together, that makes 46. Meiosis is it's actually called a reduction division process, because you start, I can't actually use my mouse today. I don't know how to point this out, but if you look at prophase 1 through telophase 1, we're kind of going through like a mitosis, kind of. Okay, so we have to do this. We still end up with 46 chromosomes at the end of meiosis 1. we have to make it haploid. So we have to go through another phase with prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, telophase 2 in order to get to a haploid cell. So that's why it's called reduction division. So in this picture, you can see at the very top we have interphase. This is when a cell's growing. This is when it's replicating DNA and doing normal cell functions. Then we start meiosis 1. So we're going to do this with PMAT 1, and then we're going to move to PMAT 2. So in prophase, first of all, the word means pro means before. So we're going to say this is the first phase, or the phase that happens before all the other phases. So chromosomes in this phase will condense. They're going to thicken. They line up in homologous pairs. So basically, usually by length. So if it was like this one was swimming around in the cell, and then another one pops up that's kind of the same, like those two would line up. Okay. So basically, they'll line up in homologous pairs, and then they'll do this thing where they kind of cross over to the next X. So I've got 2 X's here, and we're going to go ahead and cross over and give DNA information on the other strand. Okay, so there is a transfer of genetic information, or a swap of genetic information in prophase 1. Okay, and metaphase 1, I want you to think of metaphase, just think of the M, because this is when the chromosomes line up in pairs in the middle. So think of metaphase as a middle. So in metaphase 1, since I can't point it out, look at metaphase 1 in the picture. You can see that there are 2 analogous pairs lined up together. So they're like, 2 pairs together in the middle. Okay. And then in that same phase, we've got on kind of the right and left of the cell, you can see almost like fireworks is what it looks like. You've got spindles that are there that are going to actually pull those apart. So anaphase, with anaphase, I picture this like really buff chick named Anna that's just going to pull stuff apart. So maybe a bodybuilder named Anna. That's what my brain does. So picture a bodybuilder named Ann pulling apart chromosomes, and they're pulled away by spindle fibers. Okay, so that's what's happening in anaphase. Telophase, this is when 2 newly formed nuclei and 2 new cells are there. But we still have 46 chromosomes. And so we're like, wait, we want to make a new human, so we've got to go through this again. So remember cytokinesis, prophase. In prophase, what we're going to be doing is condensing the genetic material. In prophase 2, there's no exchange of genetic information, so we don't have the crossing over in prophase 2, but the spindles do form. And then in metaphase 2, we're going to go ahead and line up in the middle again. Okay, but this time, if you look at it, metaphase 1, we had 2 chromosomes together. Now we just have the 1. So in anaphase 2, that Anna bodybuilder is going to go wreck and pull it apart. So we have half of the genetic code here and half of the genetic code here in both of those cells. And then in telophase, we've got nuclei reforming, and we have a total of 4 cells that have formed. And these can be sperm cells, these can be egg cells, and all of them are different from the starting cells, which can lead to a lot of genetic variability, which is what we want. So this is the reason we can see so much genetic variability in siblings with the same parents. Okay, so from this slide, I wanted you to understand the hormones involved. So females produce estrogen and progesterone in the ovaries, and the secondary sex characteristics will happen once we've hit puberty. It's that junior high phase that most of us want to forget about, really. So with females and males, you can see that I've listed out some secondary sexual characteristics that happen at puberty. But kind of think about the guys. You can see it a lot of times. Sophomores, when they come into school, come in, and I mean no disrespect by this, but just the way hormones hit us different. Sometimes it seems to me like the boys that come into high school still look like little boys. And what's interesting is you'll watch a kid that comes in sophomore year, that senior year is beardy and tall and muscular, where he was just a little boy coming in. So you can see that the hormone process a lot of times happens throughout high school, but you also see it really strong through junior high. Okay, estrogen and progesterone help develop and maintain female sex characteristics and play an important role in the menstrual cycle, fertility, and pregnancy. Okay, males produce testosterone in the testicles, and the testosterone stimulates sperm production and the secondary sex characteristics that are here. So just think kind of broad shoulders. They a lot of times have like the V taper on the guys, and the girls just end up with the hourglass form. It is all about preparing our bodies to make new people. So I have this maybe old-fashioned viewpoint that boys maybe get the doors for girls, and boys maybe buy girls flowers. Not that girls shouldn't be nice to boys too, because I think that there should be like respect, healthy respect for both genders. But I still think that guys should get girls doors, and I still think that guys should get them flowers. And the reason why is because we have to menstruate every month, and we grow life. We're superheroes, so we end up growing humans in our bodies. And so I feel like that is something that deserves some flowers and opening of the doors. We're life givers. Okay, standard 2 is dedicated to the female reproductive system. So the structures that the curriculum says they must know, I'm going to stick strictly to those. So they said they need to know what an ovary is, what a uterine tube is, also called a fallopian tube. So in this picture, it's called the fallopian tube. In the next one, I think it's a uterine tube. So there was a Dr. Fallopian, I guess, that initially was like, look at this tube, I will name it after myself. And I think there are people along the way that are like, it's going to the uterus. A uterine tube is a more, I don't know, just a better name. So ovaries are the female gamete. This is the female gonad that produces the female gamete, the sex cell. So releases estrogen, progesterone. We create the little egg cells. And you can see that the uterine tube or the fallopian tube has these like finger-like projections that kind of sit around the ovary. So the ovary will release an egg, and these little graspy hands will be kind of around it. It's not actually like all the way attached, but it's going to be like around it, and the egg will be released into the uterine tube. So I guess in this scenario, I'm the uterus and my arms are the uterine tubes. And then maybe my fingers are those projectiles on the end of the uterine tubes that kind of surround the ovary. You're welcome for that little visual. Okay, so the uterine tube, the point of the uterine tube is basically so let's go ovaries first. Ovaries are going to produce the gamete. The gamete will be released into the uterine tube. The uterine tube actually will accept that egg, and it will kind of produce, it kind of move along the uterine tube. And if there is a sperm cell that becomes present in the right time frame, the sperm cell will actually fertilize the egg in the uterine tube. And the cells will start to divide, and then the uterine tube will transport that little zygote into the uterus. And the uterus is where the baby will actually grow and develop. So we've got uterus there, and the vagina is the sexual organ, or the organ of copulation. So just kind of orienting yourself with the sagittal cut. Here is the ovary, we're lower abdomen here. Here's the uterine tube or the fallopian tube here. Little fimbriae on on this end. It's connecting with the uterus. Uterus has 3 parts kind of coming down this way and 3 parts going in to out. I guess worthy of note, and I think you can maybe see a little bit better in the frontal view on the next slide. But imagine this, okay? So here's the uterus. The uterus will continue to grow and expand. I'm using my mouse like you can see it. The uterus will continue to grow and expand. And look at where the bladder sits. I don't know if you've ever known a pregnant woman, especially towards the end. I remember needing to use the restroom a lot more, and it's because that pushes on the bladder a little bit. So, let's go to the next slide so you can kind of see differences. So here is the frontal view of the reproductive system. I kind of think it looks like. I'm trying to like I don't know. My brain just does weird things, but it looks like a kind of an animal head with ears or something. I don't know. The 3 parts of the uterus. So here again we have both ovaries. Here's an ovary. Here's an ovary. Here are the little fimbriae, like tentacle-like, at the end of the uterine tube. So here's the uterine tube that connects with the uterus. Okay, so whoopsie. Uterus. So the top of the uterus is called the fundus. And then here's the body of the uterus. And then you get to the cervix at the bottom. Okay. And then in to out, here's the wall of the uterus. So here you go. Fundus, body, cervix. If you were going kind of top to bottom, that's how it would sit. And then if we were going inner layers to outer, the endometrial layer is going to be the innermost layer. That's the one that during the menstrual cycle sloughs off if there is no fertilized egg. And so a woman will have her period, when she has her menstrual cycle, she'll basically get rid of those cells monthly. Myometrium, remember myo means muscle. This is the muscle layer of the uterus. And yes, we need to have some powerful muscles in there because that's going to give us the contractions to actually get the baby out. And then the final layer on the outside is the perimetrium. Okay. And then the vagina or the copulating organ is here. So that's the female. So just really quick, the egg travels, if it's just the egg itself and there's no fertilization, this is the oocyte, which is an egg. So ooh is egg and cyte means cell, so an egg cell. That's going to be uptaken, I guess, uptook, I don't know, into the uterine tube, kind of sit like right here. And then if there's no sperm present, the egg will continue to travel down and then be sloughed off with the endometrial layer every month. Or the other option is egg comes into the uterine tube, is kind of hanging out here, and then a sperm cell comes and meets the egg cell, and the 2 haploid cells are now together in a diploid cell, and it starts to divide here, and then it will move into the uterus to grow into a human. Okay, so just one scary thing that can happen with that. Let's say that we have an oocyte that comes here, an oocyte, an egg comes right here, and we have fertilization that takes place. Sometimes they have, like, I'm gonna forget the real name of the tubal pregnancy, where the baby will try and form in the uterine tube. That is deadly in every case for baby, and if we let it go too far, it's deadly for mom as well. So there are a lot of things that can happen in the process of reproduction that can be a bit scary, but there are also a lot of things that can happen good. And you could be like me. I've got 3 kids and I never even got sick. I did get big at the end. It was uncomfortable. So fun story. Picture Roadhouse, 9 months pregnant with my first kid. And I'm not cute pregnant. When I'm pregnant, it's like, oh, she is pregnant. Like you can tell, doesn't matter what angle you see me, you're like, she is pregnant from the back, from the side, from the front. She's pregnant. But a friend of mine had a new waterbed, and she's like, oh, you have to try it. It's just so comfy. And I was like, I'm all down for comfy. So I went and laid down. Whoosh, whoosh. It's so comfortable. I'm laying in the ocean kind of. But I'm out to here and I'm in a waterbed. And she was like, yeah, I'll let you just be comfy for a second. And then I'm in the bed and I can't get any leverage. And so I'm like trying to get up. It wasn't working for me. It was kind of like a potato bug. If you see a potato bug that's on its back and it's like, I really like to turn over. It was like that. Good stuff. Okay, and standard 3 now. This is where we're into the male reproductive system. So I try to cover these with kind of equal and accurate coverage for both. There are some structures that the curriculum says they must know this. So those are listed, and we're going to go through those. But I'm going to give you a sagittal view on this one and a frontal view, like I did with the female. So we're with a sperm cell, they're going to be created in the testicle. So they're going to be created here, and then the sperm cells are actually going to move into this, like, I don't know, it looks like kind of a mullet on the top of the testicle. It's going to move into this little structure called the epididymis, which I like to refer to the epididymis as sperm college. So we've got the sperm created here. They move up to the epididymis. That's where they mature. And once they are mature, they can be released. So epididymis, the sperm cells that mature will go from the epididymis to the vas deferens. That's this tube right here. So it goes through the vas deferens, and it will go kind of around the bladder. There's going to be another gland called the seminal vesicle here, which for our test you won't need to remember, but it's another gland. And the idea is we've got these little sperm cells that have all the genetic material in the head of the sperm cell, and then it has this little tail that's just whipping around frantically. That takes a lot of energy. And so this seminal vesicle will release some fluids that actually help to nourish the sperm so they can continue on their journey. So we go vas deferens, seminal vesicle. They're going to pass through the prostate gland. So there's another little gland that the boys have. And there also is another gland called the bulbourethral gland that's at the it's basically kind of here, leading into the urethra. And it's another gland that will release like alkaline fluid. The sperm cells, when they reach the female body is actually very acidic and deadly for a sperm cell. So the male body will release some alkaline fluid to neutralize the acid in the woman's body. It's pretty fascinating that that's the way it works. So sperm goes from testicle to sperm college to vas deferens, hits 3 glands actually, and then out through the urethra. So there are some health problems that can happen with prostate gland. I'm just going to, actually I might come back to the male in a second, but in the event, because with reproduction, we have a lot of big choices that we can make as humans. And if we decide to bring a new human into the world, that equals a lot of responsibility. And so and talk to your parents about what that responsibility looks like. But you don't stay babies for long, do you? So I think a lot of times people might think of like, oh, baby, it'd be such a neat thing. And it is. It's absolutely wonderful. But when you're ready for it, kind of a deal. So you can make choices in the end. Let's say that you have all the kids that you wanted. Maybe you wanted 8 kids and you had all 8 kids. And at that point, you're like, you know what? I really want to be able to financially support 8 kids. So you can make the decision to actually have in the case of the female, you can have your tubes tied. So they'll do a tubal ligation. So you can keep your ovaries intact so the hormones are still pretty normal. And it will be an option for women to actually kind of tie the tubes. You can have what's called a hysterectomy, which means that we're taking out, hysterectomy would be like the uterus. You can have an oophorohysterectomy, and that's basically taking out all of it. So there are things that you can do in the end, or if you have reproductive health issues, sometimes the doctor will say, like, it's not about a reproduction issue, it's about making sure you stay alive. They can do things that if these organs are problematic, they can remove some things. Okay, in the case of the males, if Pops decides that's it for me, 8 kids, that's all I wanted was 8 kids, or whatever your number is, they can also do a procedure on males where if they go behind the testicle and kind of with a crochet hook grab the vas deferens, they'll pull that through a small incision and snip snap, snip snap, snip snap. So if they don't want to reproduce anymore, there is an option that is permanent. Okay, so the frontal view of the male reproductive system is here. So again, sperm cells start here. This is where testosterone is also created. Sperm cells go to sperm college in the epididymis. They go through the vas deferens, hit 3 glands along the way, and come through the prostate gland and out the urethra. So that's basically your start to reproduction. We're gonna talk about a couple of things maybe that I feel like we need to cover. If once I watch this video, if I feel like there's some things I missed, I might throw that in, and we'll talk about diseases and disorders next time. And there will be like a review of reproduction, but no reproductive test, because we got to get ready for our final. So I'm not going to do a reproductive test. We're just going to do a final test, and this will be in it. So just really quick before I leave, there's that bulbourethral gland that I was talking about in the last one that wasn't pictured. So that's the third gland that the sperm will come up on. But there you go, male and female reproductive anatomy. Let's see, it's Wednesday today. I would like you, I've been updating grades twice a day, sometimes 4 or 5 times a day. I want you to make up your work today. If you can make up a couple assignments a day, if you're behind, I just don't want you or me, frankly, to get stuck at the very end going like, all right, get this in, let's get them done, okay? So hang in there. Know that I miss you, and we'll see you next time.